My opening. Ha! I'm telling you what, kids. Welcome to Blooming in the Cage. I forgot to open my opener. I just started. I was running downstairs to get another cup of tea. I'm gonna keep on posting that Constant Comment should support the pod, or at least give me some PRs, because I keep them going. I already had one cup in this cup of tea before in the green room with my friend, and now I have another one so I don't cough on air. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you're not up to your ears and unwrap Christmas presents. The good thing I have a green screen here, because if you could see the amount of presents that I have in this spare room, kids that live in my house, don't come up here. And if your birth date starts with 19, don't get on the floor or in some sort of precarious position to wrap presents, because then you'll have to call for assistance, and one of your younger children in your house will see all the presents that are unwrapped, because you got yourself in a position where you couldn't get up. If you're like me, I was trying to water our Christmas tree. We got a real Christmas tree this year. In the past, we've had fake ones because, quite frankly, our old dog that we used to have peed on our real tree one year, and it was a whole thing of chaos. It was like something out of Clark Griswold Christmas. There was screaming, crying. Remember when the cat got loose? It was very much like that, but it was our dog peeing all over the Christmas presents and the Christmas tree and the real tree. I mean, in his defense, we brought his bathroom inside. So we got a real Christmas tree, and I forgot Christmas trees like shed pine needles and crap, and you got to put water on them, and they cost a lot of money. Have you bought a Christmas tree lately? I can't. And even here in Vermont, where the Green Mountain State, it still costs me a lot of money. I'm so glad you're here. If you're here and you're here because of our guest, let me know. If you're here just because you randomly saw us on YouTube or Facebook, let us know you're here. If you're here because you like me and support me, that's great. You can show that love by going up to our Venmo and sending me some money. Merry Christmas. I wanted to let you know of a few things that you can do still. If you get on Amazon, you can order my brother's book. Ignore the date, November 19th. That's already passed. But the Christmas Table, Recipes and Reflection for the Advent Season. It's a great Christmas gift. And yes, I know you're already into Advent, but listen, Christmas comes every year. So you can have it for next year. And it's got some great recipes in it. My Aunt Helen's cherry yum yum. My Aunt Helen's fudge. Aunt Helen could cook some. Margaret's chocolate eclair cake. A lot of goods, including my flavored oyster crackers, which I will be making next week. They're really great to go on chilies, soups, and salads, or just to eat while you're watching Elf on the couch. The other thing I want to say is that I have 2 writing projects that I'm working on. I'm not yet ready to share them, but if you want to support me getting some of the great content that you get every week here, chit-chatting with me, and paperback or hardcover, support me. Send me a message if you want some more information. I'm just not yet ready to share it publicly. I'm excited to have my guest here. I'm going to bring him in just a minute. But what I want to tell you is for the next 2 weeks, I won't be here. Don't call me. Don't ask me to do anything. I'm going to be hanging out with my granddaughter. I'm hanging out with my family, eating a lot of those recipes that we were just talking about, probably gaining 25 pounds during Christmas. But whatever, we'll work it off in the new year. Isn't that what New Year's for, right? All of your New Year's resolutions after you've packed on the pounds. One thing I will say that I think I need to develop an allergy to is Chex Mix. I don't know if that's your favorite. I don't know what your favorite Christmas treat is, but Chex Mix, man, that's got a chokehold on me. And I think I have Chex Mix Gremlins in my house because I made 3 batches a couple weeks ago at the request of the 2 young men that live in my home. And I went to bed and I woke up and it had disappeared, as if somehow gremlins had come in the middle of the night and eaten it. I don't know what happened to it, but if I make Chex Mix again, I'm gonna have to hide some of it, hoard it away from them because they're animals. They're animals. Like I said, if you're here in the chat, let me know you're here. I can see you lurking. I can see the numbers tick-tocking. I'm gonna bring in my guest, who actually was the first guest I ever had on my podcast. I don't know how he got to be so lucky to be our very first guest on Blooming in a Cage. Almost 2 years ago, which is wild to me. I'm gonna welcome my friend Benjamin Polhemus. You know what? I was gonna use
Robin.
I was gonna use your middle name, but I don't think I know your middle name. I'm a big fan of middle names. I like
You
to
didn't
know
know
them.
my middle name?
I don't.
James.
Well, I should have known that,
You
right?
should have known that.
But
I always fondly introduce you as my oldest friend.
I know. Hey, listen, you're catching up with me. We're just talking about what birthday
not
you're
like
gonna
that
have.
way, but I've known you longer than I've known almost anybody.
Your wife, right?
Oh,
Longer
definitely
than you've known
a lot.
your wife, right? Yeah.
I think I might have had diapers on when I met you.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure your mom almost had diapers on when my parents met her. I think she was 13. I think something like that when my mom and dad met.
Yeah.
Your parents. That's wild. Yes, Ben is my oldest friend. I'll say that's it. My oldest friend. Hi, Laura Murray. Welcome to the chat. Hi, Deborah. All of our friends are here. It's like we should do this all the time.
Yeah. Well, we were talking earlier. One of my favorite nights of the year was my birthday when we all get to have dinner together.
I wish I should have. Should have put it up here, Jill. The picture of Ben in the sombrero. And the Mexican gentleman putting whipped cream all over your face.
That's right.
That was a great night. Yes, Ben Polhemus, Benjamin James Polhemus. I should have known that. For those that don't know, Ben's dad's name's James. Anybody else have James in their name besides your dad and you?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't know. But yeah, I just was wondering because like there's a lot of Mikes in my family. So sometimes that happens. You get a name and it just won't quit. I have a thing about knowing people's names. This is my dad actually here. He's logged in on the church page, but from the Gant household. That happens to us. Sometimes you forget you switched accounts. He's like me. He's got 3 or 4 monitors. You never know who. Once in a while, I'll post something. I'm like, ooh, whose page did I put that on? So Ben and I have known, I say we're not yet the tomb, but we definitely are the womb friends. You have those womb to tomb friends. I'm hoping Jesus will come back and we can just skip the tomb and just go. And we did have you do not live in New England now.
No.
Where are you now?
I live in Valparaiso, Indiana, which is about 60 miles outside of Chicago.
So you are...
I've lived here in Valpo since like 99. So unfortunately, I think I've lived here longer. Well, I definitely lived here longer than I lived in Vermont.
But you are still a Red Sox fan. That's
correct. Yeah.
Not everything has changed.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Those things.
Anytime I see anyone with a Yankees hat, I just kind of just
shake your head. You're like,
yeah, just thinking, oh.
I know. If my friend Tony Paolo is listening, we still love you, Tony. We're still praying for you to be redeemed from being a Yankees fan.
Yeah.
And is that true? You are one of my oldest friends, and we have known each other, and we have a lot of fun together.
Yep.
I think we always have. I would say that, when you have friends in high school, which I would say I was actually thinking, because my son hangs out with the Slades who own your former home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because he's like, Mom, we were in the basement watching movies. I'm like, yeah, I know that basement.
We were there.
We were in there
in the 1900s.
In the 1900s.
In the 1900s watching movies, yep.
So you moved to Indiana, and what do you do, Ben, in Indiana besides diminish Yankees fans?
Yeah. So I am a pastor at a church here in Indiana, and I work specifically with people with disabilities, and I also do local outreach, which includes all sorts of different things and doing things in the community and helping out people.
I love that. And I was telling somebody recently, I was like, I'm going to have my friend Ben on. And I said, he's a pastor, but with disabilities. And I was like, what does that look like, Ben? Like,
I could tell the best thing is so many people with disabilities can't drive. So I spend tons of time in cars with people.
Yep.
And the best thing is like, you have conversation about anything.
Road
just case
trip.
in point. So on Sunday here in Indiana, it snowed, and we had it was almost like a whiteout when I went and picked up this. He's about 30 and he has Down syndrome. And we're sitting there just driving through like snow. We have to go like 20 miles an hour. And we just started talking about what it would be like if we had dragons to ride on instead of cars.
Just whatever. I actually
Yeah,
grew
just
up.
whatever happens.
Yes,
And
I don't know if you remember our Pastor Powell and Gladys, their son John,
yep.
who had Downs, who I believe is still alive and probably well in his 60s now because he's a little bit older than me. But what a joy they are.
Oh, absolutely.
I think there's a comedian they were getting that says, ask people when they find out you have Down syndrome and they're like, don't know much about it. They're like, how are they doing? Better than anybody you know. Like,
oh yeah. Yeah.
just better than you can think or imagine.
Yeah, I was actually talking to some of my friends today, and we are talking about just because we do lots of different trips and things like that, and like it's not like a group that complains.
Yeah.
Like it's just, I mean, honestly, I laugh so much just by just the different perspectives, not like at them, but like just with them, because there's so much joy that happens. And so to be honest, this is a group of people I'd rather spend time with than pretty much anybody else. It's like
a much better pastor gig than regular people.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, man, all this no.
Typical people. That's what I'll say. Typical people, right?
Yeah.
That's really unique. What a unique ministry, Ben, that God's given you. That not everybody gets afforded that, because I think many churches, when someone comes and they have a child with needs, they're like, "What do we do? How do
exactly?
We,
yeah."
You know,
and you know, we were talking earlier of just how Agape, where you're at, kind of had this heart, and God's kind of anointed the church to do all sorts of things with food. Well, our church, Liberty, has kind of had the same thing with people with disabilities. We've had so many different people that have kind of had a heart and compassion for that, and so it's just really neat just how many different people I've kind of latched on, because hopefully we're very loving and open, and at least understanding to some degree of different people with disabilities. So,
and their families.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, because there's unique needs and unique things that go along with that, and just the amount of isolation that happens. And you know, I shared a lot in the first time we were together, just about our journey and having a son with muscular dystrophy, and just understanding things in a personal way that you don't understand unless you go through something like that.
Sure. Because you may not have the compassion or patience, which is required. I have a nephew that has needs, and sometimes it's a struggle
and that's
to have patience, even as those that love him the most. You know.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing with those with disabilities, whether it's physical, emotional, or any way like that. It is, you go at a slower pace, and that's one of the things I definitely learned from my son Kyle, is that you start going fast and you miss out on so many things in life, and so
slow down.
Yeah, that's one of the best lessons of and I've had so many people as we've brought our group and met all sorts of people. It's like, we just love talking to people, the people in your group, because they're just so interesting about all sorts of different topics. I have
riding a dragon.
Riding a dragon instead of a car through the snow. That would be so much more fun. Like, we have one friend who just loves, in Chicago, they have the CTA, which is like the public transit, and he knows every single kind of trains. We're riding in it. And he's like, and this is whatever model, and they have this many, and it's just so amazing. Of just like what kind of knowledge.
Sheldon Cooper, is that what?
Exactly. And then we have another guy who one week we have a Sunday school class. He just went through every single president from Washington until now, and it's like, holy cow! I didn't even know some of these people were presidents.
I feel so dumb right now.
Exactly.
And it's I go to school?
And he just does like one right after another, and but that's, I think, the cool thing of just how much there is to learn from, people with disabilities, and kind of I think even what we're going to talk about, kind of the main part of tonight, is kind of just our journey over the last few months, and just the compassion and care, and even like just understanding of who God is from that perspective is so refreshing, because so often
see often.
No, and so often I know for me it's like I get so jaded and so like stuff I think I've known this stuff since I was a kid, whatever. This is just a cliche answer, and it's like, but then all of a sudden you see it from a different perspective, almost like that childlike faith,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
not a bad way, but just like an amazing way of like, this is just so awesome, this perspective of life.
So what's happened over the last 2 months?
So
Catch me up, buddy. That's what we're gonna do
yeah.
tonight. Everybody, anybody, sorry, you're listening in on me and Ben's very private
Oh,
conversation.
exactly. We're just,
Him and I wish we were having tacos together, but
yeah. So
but instead we're across the country.
even as we kind of wind down on 2025, I'm sure all of us kind of have thoughts of like, hey, this is what life was like, or whether good, bad, this is kind of what we predicted, whatever. So I'll be honest, like most of 2025, I mean, there was different parts to it, but nothing like extraordinary or anything that was out of the ordinary until like October. So my wife Jill had surgery in the middle of October, and after about a week, she started developing an infection, and she had went to the hospital, I think on a Sunday, and they sent her home with some antibiotics, and she was kind of feeling better for a few days. And then the following Thursday, we woke up in the morning, and she goes, "I just don't feel good. I don't feel right in my mind. I don't feel right in anything." And so we ended up going to the ER. She calls the doctor. Well, we're sitting there in the ER. It's about 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're asking her, like, kind of going through all the assessment questions. And they ask her the question, like, "Are you suicidal?" And she makes a comment, something along the lines of, "I'm in so much pain that I wish I had taken a bunch of pills." So that started a whole chain of events that I did not realize what was going on until about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. They kicked me immediately out of the room that she was in, and they gave me her cell phone. They said, "You need to take everything with you." This is like, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, okay, again, not really thinking anything,
Right. Just doing what they tell you to.
just doing what they told me. So about 3 o'clock, one of the nurses comes out and they said, "Well, we're going to be transferring her to a different hospital, and we're putting a 72-hour hold on her." And I was, again, it just did not compute like
Yeah.
what actually was going on. So I don't remember what exactly sparked it, but then all of a sudden I realized, like, oh, they're putting her in a psych ward
Unit. Yeah.
in like a hospital that's about an hour away,
Wow.
and I have her phone. So basically I went back to the doctor at that point in time when I realized what was going on. And I was like, no, 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 you guys have this totally wrong. She had this really bad infection.
Yeah.
She has all
She
sorts of
feels
other,
miserable.
yeah, she feels miserable. She has all sorts of other medical
Yeah.
health issues. And the doctor's like, no, we're going to take care of her like mental health first. I was like, I think her mental health is like from this infection.
Right.
And
Right.
so I kind of begged with him, and he's like, well, the judge already signed off on this hold. And
Yeah,
of
and
course
there's
I find
nothing
out.
you can do
So,
then. Once those
so
wheels have started to
exactly.
roll. Yeah.
So I don't even know what the word to describe it other than just desperate. Because I was like, she doesn't have like, she's diabetic. She has
Yeah. Yeah.
congestive
Yeah.
heart. I mean, just all these things that she
She
has.
has.
And I was like, she's gonna. I mean, my honest thought was she's gonna die overnight
Yeah.
because they're not
Yeah.
doing anything.
Right.
So I started calling anybody and everybody I could. Um, I called a lawyer friend of mine. I called doctors. I called anybody I thought, like, I'm going through my phone. I'm like,
Yeah.
anybody I think that could like possibly help. And going back to kind of the disability world is like, all of a sudden people are like, well, you just got to pray. And I'm like, well, I want to do more than just pray. Like, I want to fix this
I
problem.
want to
because,
fix this
like,
problem.
and
Yeah.
so, and one of our dear friends had called another doctor friend of ours that Jill grew up with, and he calls me, and when Jill was admitted into the psych ward, he had called immediately there, and so he had kind of worked on some other situations. So long story short, Jill was let out of the psych ward that next morning, and they said, we're gonna just work on the medical side of it. And she was in the hospital, ended up being for about 10 days.
Ugh.
But it was just, but as I think about that, and I'll go to the rest of the story in a second, but like in and of itself, and like that, like we saw just the amount of compassion from so many friends, especially so many friends of our, with disabilities. I mean, we were getting calls and texts and cards, and I mean, just everything of just all this, like, just legitimate care. And when I think through, like, I'm sure everybody who gets in a situation like that like prays or thinks about like, hey, I got to fix this problem. But to actually have like Christian community come around you,
That's
I mean,
not judgmental.
that's not judgmental. That's not like, hey, and I mean, some of these people are like, I'm going to pray for you. There's no way they could have fixed the problem. None of us could fix the problem.
Right.
But it's like, we're going to love you where you're at.
Right.
And then we had so many people that go up and visit Jill through that time.
Yeah.
So that her time ended up like maybe the first week of November. About a week later, my son Aiden's home from school. And he comes in to our room on a Friday night. So she would have gotten out maybe like the previous Wednesday. So this is like 6-7 days later, 8 days later. Aiden comes to our room and is like, hey, I got a collapsed lung. And I'm like, and so
come on.
So he had said like he had had some, it's called a pneumothorax, which I'm not a medical person, so I'm not even going to try to get into it. Basically had a hole in his lung.
Yeah.
So it happened to him before. Well, this happened to him again.
Yep.
So we bring him to the ER that following Saturday. So he goes, I just want to sleep because it's Friday night. He goes, I want to sleep and let me get up the next morning. We'll go to the ER. Well, long story short with that, he ended up being in the hospital for 18 days. He just got out last Wednesday, a week ago. And his whole thing was they said that the doctors told us they were going to fix the problem. So there was this procedure that had to be done, and he had it done the day before Thanksgiving. And, you know, even as I had the poignant moment with Jill of realizing there was nothing I could do. So Aiden, what they did is they put tubes in his lung. And when he came out, I was there when he came out, and he's just screaming, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And for those that don't know my whole story, we had our son Kyle who passed away, and pretty much the last month of his life, that was all he could say was, I can't breathe.
Yeah. And trauma coming right up to your brain.
Exactly. And so this is like the day before Thanksgiving, all this is going on, and Aiden's screaming, and I'm just, and it was just heartbreaking I mean, take the whole Kyle piece out of it, just as a dad, having your kid scream, I can't breathe. It's just, I mean, it's traumatic.
Yeah.
And so they told us like 95% chance that this surgery is going to work. We're going to fix his lung. He'll never have this problem again. Well, 2 days later, the doctor goes, well, he's in the 5%. We're going to have to do it again. And they told us that if this doesn't work, we're going to open him up and we're going to basically have to put his lung underwater, and we're going to have to find, and I was like,
wow.
I mean, my son's 21 years old.
Yeah.
And I mean, talk about just the severity of a thought like that. Now, the second surgery did work, and he got out, and he's doing great. We actually took him straight from school to college, which is about 3 hours away down in Indianapolis. And
you said he was working on papers, and while
he was working. Yes, he was working. He wrote a paper. He was doing all his homework. He went straight to like doing
on painkillers.
Project.
Good job, Aiden. Good job.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see the grades on those.
Yeah. Not only was he on painkillers, he also had a what do they call that that women have during pregnancy, or an epidural.
Epidural.
Yeah, he had an epidural too the whole time. So
legs.
So Aiden and his fiancee Annika, they were, you know, pretty vocal about their faith and really sharing that. And so one day I got a text from a friend of ours who was kind of acquaintance. He was a Notre Dame student, and his text just said, "Aiden's a warrior for God." And I'm not even sure what our friend's faith background is, but for him to see that, and you know, and so I feel like all those stories to share. I feel like so much of our lives we try to stay away from problems, which we don't want problems. I didn't want what's happened to us the last 2 months. But it's kind of through those problems and through those situations where, first of all, our faith, I think, is defined in different ways. And second of all, that gives us the biggest opportunity to kind of let our faith be on display. And the hardest part is when we don't know the outcome. Like when I got that, when I received that text from my, our friend, I thought, yeah, that's great that Aiden's a, warrior for Christ. But it's like, man, this is really going to stink if he dies through this whole thing. Like, I mean, as a dad, like that's,
right.
But it's like, but those are the moments that really do help like solidify faith in a different way.
Yeah.
And
I
I
think
think
so
really,
often I think so often we pull away. We want to skip uncomfortableness. But I
absolutely,
think
yeah,
but
yeah,
I think my dad, if you're still in here, I'm gonna quote him. He says somebody said one time to him, "Mike, you have the greatest stories. Like you have the greatest stories. How do you
yeah,
have the greatest stories?" He says, "You got to go where the great stories are."
yeah,
And that's true. That like a lot of times we want to experience miracles in our life. We want to see
yeah,
miracles in our lives, but we don't want to experience the things that require a miracle.
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
We want to
Well,
skip
in order,
past that
yeah,
uncomfortableness.
well, in order to have miracles, you have to be in a pretty rough position. Because if we can get ourselves out of it, it's not going to be a very rough. And I mean, and that's the whole thing of like, when you're in a desperate situation, like I would call both of those kind of a desperate thing of just not
Right,
being able to have any control.
right.
There is a difference, like I don't even know what the right word would be, like an utterance or just like
Yeah,
a, okay, God, you have to do something because there is nothing I can do.
yeah.
And I think
Like
so
like we were
often,
talking in the green room, like when you pray that the Holy Spirit will give you utterance, it's when you say
yeah,
like, "God, I don't know what to pray here." I think it's Teen Challenge that says that help is a full prayer.
yeah, yeah,
And I've had those prayers before where you're like, you just kind of look at God and you
mhm,
go, like, I don't know what to do here. I don't know how to fix this.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and going back to kind of our friends with disabilities and stuff, it's like just the simpleness of like, I prayed, or God's going to take care of Aiden, and it's like, yes, this is the simplicity of it. And I don't know why, and this is probably just my own issues of like, I feel like there's a
You have
huge
issues?
difference. Yeah, I have lots of issues, but I feel like there's a difference when someone like with disabilities comes up and says that to me than like when somebody who's like,
Yeah.
it says it almost like in a cliche way that's like, I don't want to listen to you because
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a difference, I think, when people have gone through things and they say that, and there's like this, I don't know, almost connectedness of the heart,
Yeah.
when you can see like you have been through some stuff.
Well, it's like when someone says to someone, like if I was to say to you, Ben, who has lost a child, like death is really hard. That doesn't mean as much for coming from
Yeah.
me who hasn't suffered what you've suffered. And that's where it is. It's when you can relate your pain to somebody else's pain in a relatable way is where um, God really can move in a healing way.
Yeah.
That's in a healing way because otherwise it's just nice. That's what
Yeah.
it is. It's just nice for someone to say. But when someone is suffering in a way that you've suffered and you're able to reach out to them, I think it touches a different part of your heart.
Yeah.
At least in my experience.
And and I think that's so true. I was at a funeral probably about a year and a half ago, and a dad lost his 27-year-old son. He was in a motorcycle accident, and I get up to the front, and the dad looks at me and he goes, "We're part of a club that nobody wants to be a part of." And I didn't. I mean, I didn't even have to say a word
Nope.
because, and so what? So my thoughts kind of on the pain and different things that we all go through in life is that those really are what people connect with way more than like things that we're successful with or victories or anything like that, or like, hey, I was successful in this. Nobody really cares,
No.
but people want to know, like, when I go through the worst possible things,
Yeah.
can I get through it? And is God there, or what is God even thinking while I'm going through this?
And I think that brings up an interesting point, Ben, because I think that that's one thing that at least the church that I grew up in, like my brother Andy says, I know how the sausage was made. At least in the church that I was brought up into, not a lot of people talk about their problems in church. It's like the joy of the Lord is my strength. If we're gonna walk by faith, receive your
Yeah.
healing. Like all those things. And yes, all those things are true, but they're not relatable to the person. The person who is the alcoholic needs another alcoholic to say, you know what? I know what it's like to want to drink every day.
Yeah.
Like that's what they need. The person
Mhm.
who's lost a child needs somebody else to go, you know what? I understand your pain. in a way that nobody else can. And I think that that's the church community can learn a
Mhm.
lesson there, that if we were a little bit more transparent with our pain,
Yeah.
that is where real ministry is
Mhm.
done.
Yeah. And I think, again, we grew up in the same church, so I can relate to some of those things. And I think whether it was taught or just the thought, uh-oh, or just the thought of, I don't have enough faith if I struggle.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
that's I mean, that's something that people think of, like, I don't, I mean, we've all probably we both have heard so many different testimonies.
yeah.
And I remember one time thinking, this is like kind of a kid, high school or whatever, thinking, you always hear the testimony after the fact. You don't ever hear the testimony like,
Yes,
yeah, you know what I did last night? I did
yes, yes,
whatever. I
yeah,
was drunk
yeah,
last night or
yeah,
whatever it is. It's like,
yeah.
but that's the reality of it, is like, so many people are in that moment, but they don't feel like they can share that moment
Right.
because they need to wait 6 months down the road where it's like, hey, I beat it.
Yep. I think one thing I was actually writing, one of the things that I'm working on was, I wrote this today. It says, um, that Jesus himself wept at the tomb of Lazarus. He didn't rush past the pain.
Hmm.
And I think that that's one thing that we do a lot of times, is when something's painful, when something's hard, we try to pull our big girl panties up and like push past it because I'm a Christian. And Jesus sat with people in their pain. He didn't rush anybody past that. I mean, if you think about it, what did he do before? He knew Lazarus was going to come back to life, but yet he wept with those that were hurting.
Yeah.
And I think that that is, and he showed himself being vulnerable just the same as us. He didn't offer a lecture or and go like, "What are you talking about?" Like he mourned. And I think that as a church community, we could learn a lot
Hmm.
from being more transparent and less judgmental. I had this experience with a friend whose son came to church after not being in church for a long time. I'd known him when he was a little kid, and he came to church, and I ran right up to him and I said, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you." And I gave him a big hug and I was like, "I'm so glad you're here." And I was like, I said, "Come sit right in my row," and he came and sat down. And his mom came to me after, and she said, "Thank you so much for greeting him that way." She said he was so worried that
Hmm.
someone would say something to him. And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she
Yeah.
was like, "He was so concerned that someone would be like, 'Where have you been? It's nice for you to finally show up.'"
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the hard thing, is that so often that's how we're greeted. Not so much that the people that are quote unquote judgmental have it all together, but it's like, we don't really know how to deal with it when we're in the middle. And that's, and you were talking about the idea of Jesus with Lazarus. I just think of that, of what is our view of God? Is our view of God of like someone that can sit with us
Yeah.
in our deepest, darkest pain and cry
Yep.
with us?
Yep.
And unfortunately, we don't. A lot of us don't have that view of God. We think
Mhm.
of, when we're in that moment, we think of God up on the hill pointing down on us, being like, "Yeah, get
Oh, it actually
pull
says, I
up
think
your
it says,
bootstrap and go."
is Psalms 34. It says, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and the crushed in the
Hmm.
spirit." It
Yeah,
doesn't say he's far away. He doesn't say, the old cliche, clean up for you, take a bath.
yeah, yeah.
It's not it. It's he's near to the brokenhearted and the crushed in spirit. And if we're supposed to be his hands and feet,
Hmm.
then we should also be looking for those that are, and building the
Yeah,
kind of community that
yeah.
you've experiencing, building community where someone who is brokenhearted and crushed in spirit, by whatever has done that, because some of us have crushed our own selves. That's
Hmm.
just, I mean, that's a reality.
Yeah,
My dad says here, it's because we truly don't comprehend the incarnation of God into humanity.
yeah.
You got it, Pop. It is true
Mhm.
that we don't truly get it, the idea that God could understand what it's like to be me.
Yeah,
That's really what we're saying, is like, it's if somehow it's the concept that a lot of people have of God, is him being somewhere far off,
yeah.
And people even say that, well, if God exists, I'm sure he's probably not concerned with me. Right.
Mhm.
That's it. And he is.
Yeah, yeah,
He is concerned.
yeah, yeah. And I, again, I just appreciate so much our friends with disabilities and their, first of all, their faith, and then also just that compassion. When the friend I was sharing about lost their son, a lot of us don't know how to respond in a situation like that. Like we stay far away or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, they have a next door neighbor, and he's close to our family. His name's Brock, and he went and just went right in the door and just hugged the whole family. That's, not scared, not thinking you have to have the right answers, just kind of like that gift of presence of just I'm
There
going to
aren't there
go.
aren't right words.
There isn't. There's
No.
nothing. There's no words that are going to be able to fix that problem.
Nope. Nope.
But a hug goes a long way.
Or just being.
Yeah.
Just being. Most of us don't want our pain to have purpose.
No.
You know, we don't want, but I think in your life, in Jill's life, and in Aiden's life, and Lisa's life, you've seen that the pain of that you've went through, and your journey with Kyle has purpose.
Yeah.
You know, my dad, I think often of our friend Lisa Vos and her husband Matt, when they lost their 5-year-old son just shy of his 5-year-old birthday. Just this past week was when he passed a few years ago of brain cancer. And I remember when my dad preached his funeral, and he said his life had more impact than most people who live to be 100.
Yeah.
You know, his life has a purpose, and each life has a purpose. But now I've seen God use them in the same way that he uses you, like that it has a purpose. And a lot of us, that's what we're uncomfortable with, is being shaped and molded by the life experiences. And everybody has painful experiences in their life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody has some sort of trauma. Everybody has some sort of grief. Everybody has some sort of pain. You know, that's just a part of being a human.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out a way to get past it. I if anybody has the special sauce to know how to live a life without pain, I mean, and when Jesus even said, "In this world there'll be trouble."
With troubles. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's part of being a
Yeah.
human being. His friends killed him, so I think like he had trouble too. Like, but I think that what I think you're talking about is community in the sense that the church is supposed to be.
Yeah. And that's, throughout our whole time, whether it be with Kyle or with just some of these other things that have happened, we have experienced that in such a way. And that's, to me, that's motivating for us to be that same with other people.
Yeah.
Because when we went through the whole thing with Kyle, I mean, there wasn't a single day that went by that we didn't have people reaching out to us, even with, it almost gets to the point of almost like overwhelming of like, hey, we're praying for you. How's Aiden? We love you. What can we do?
Yeah.
But it's like, but you also realize like there's a whole lot of people that go through things that don't have that.
Right.
And that's, and that's what I think breaks my heart and really motivates us to like be that community for other people, because we know what it's like on the good end, but there's a lot of people that don't.
Right. They don't. My dad said here, we both use this word presence. And I think that that's what a lot of people, in the modern day church want, to reach the lost, to reach the hurting, to reach those that are downtrodden, to those that are lost in their sin, but they don't want to be present with them. And I think that's, I think Benjamin might have froze. Let's see here. I think Benjamin, you froze. Wait, maybe he's back. Let's see. You came back.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Don't worry. It happens to the best of us. What I was saying was, the key word there is that a lot of us want to reach people who are in pain, but we don't want to be present in their pain.
Yeah.
We want to kind of avoid that. And I can say that, like, in the work that I do in food ministry, and even just in the work in our church, we have a lot of people. I remember a few months ago, I guess it was like maybe in the summertime, we've been having these evening meetings where we have a number of young men in our church that are pursuing ministry, and we've been giving them the chance to get behind the pulpit and preach. Remember the first time you preached, Ben?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like,
It's just the best way. And we've been praying. We have prayer and praise, and we take the turn, and we have a literal hot seat. If you need prayer, we'll anoint you. Have our elders pray for
yeah,
you. And we had this gentleman get up, and he was just very honest about his addiction with cocaine, his addiction with alcohol, and just they began to pray for him. And he was yelling. I love this so much because my son occasionally just will yell it because it was humorous. He's 16, but in a way, it was so great. He was like telling the devil to get the hell away from him, which I love so much. But what was real was his pain. And a lot of times, as in the church, we haven't created an environment where people that are living in their pain can come with all the raw bumps and bruises
yeah,
of that pain and feel the community of us being present and inviting. Like, let's sit
yeah.
down, break better. You have a place here.
Hmm.
Because the reality is all of us,
Yeah.
all of us, but most of us are just really great at hiding our stuff.
Well, and that's almost like what, just culturally wise, we've kind of done is that we'll embrace you as long as there's nothing too crazy going on in your life, and then you see, crazy come out in all sorts of different ways in all of our lives,
Yeah.
and then it's like, and I think all of us kind of have the defense mechanism is,
Yeah.
do people still love me when they know my crazy?
Yeah.
And
Well,
the
so
whole
far you've kept me.
yeah, I was gonna say, hey, we've made it to 50, so I mean,
Woohoo!
we're halfway there.
Yeah, yeah.
But creating that environment that it's like, hey, as obviously we don't want to stay there because crazy is
Right.
not helpful for any of
Not the
us.
place you want to live. No,
No,
no.
but as you walk through that of like, okay, how do we love through that?
Yeah.
And I think so often people are scared of like, you're gonna love me until you know,
Right.
and then all of a sudden we're not gonna have a
If
relationship
you really
anymore.
knew the real me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the love, your pain doesn't disqualify you from love. And that's what a lot of people think is they think their pain, their stuff, their sin
Hmm.
disqualifies them. And the great thing, the good news is that Jesus qualifies you.
Yeah.
He's the qualifier. He's the one who makes it right. And I think that the message I think that you're bringing tonight is that we really, to me, Ben, is that we need to create a community where you can be honest with your pain,
Yeah.
and be met with comfort.
Hmm.
To just be
Yeah.
present with people in their pain. And I think that there's and we lived through some of it, okay, being teenagers in the 90s, and I'll just be honest, the evangelical church that we grew up into is a lot of, and this is no bash on the great saints that came before us, but some of them were, if you were in sin, you were banished.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That was the environment. If you were an unwed mother, get out of here. If you were
Hmm.
shacking up with your boyfriend, get out of here. And that was a lot of the church, and I think that really spoke more about the country club
Yeah.
than what God really calls us to do, which is to say, "Okay, let's sit down and talk about this. Let me get to know
Yeah.
you first of all." Because
Hmm.
everybody has a story.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think as you said earlier, of the whole idea of getting over that pain quickly and not that you want to like linger in it, but at the same time dealing with it healthy. Like and I share this quite a bit with people. Is like I did not deal with all the stuff with Kyle well. And I've shared and I didn't. And there's lots of parts of that were kind of rough. I mean, there was definitely rough moments.
So what you're saying, Ben, is that you were human.
But what I'm saying is that the better we can deal with that stuff, the less. I mean, I've done lots and lots of funerals, and I kind of have joke and probably serious. It almost turns into more of like a therapy because it's
Yeah.
like, listen, undealt with pain leads to
Yeah.
alcoholism,
Yep.
drug addiction,
Yep.
crazy behavior.
Anger.
Because
I mean,
yeah,
anger and
because
bitterness
it's
will
like
eat you apart.
yeah, yeah, anger, and so it's like so that idea of sitting there and dealing with it and helping you deal with it, even though it's a lot harder and you cry probably a whole lot more, like just moving on from that really is not healthy at all.
But I think in order to move past that, you have to have someone to be there with you
Absolutely.
to
Yeah. You
help
can't, I
guide
don't
you
think you can do that on
through,
your own.
the I recently wrote this and something I'm working on that trauma is not about intent, it's about impact. And like, so it doesn't matter how a lot of times we get concerned, like how I arrived at this emotion. You know,
Mhm.
how did this happen to me? Or what,
Yeah.
if I'm
Yeah.
dealing with anger, everybody wants to know, well, why are you so angry? Well, it doesn't really matter why I'm so angry. Just I'm angry. And I need to
Mhm.
learn how to not be angry anymore. And I need to work
Yeah.
through the emotions. And I think that we need to learn to work through people's stuff with
Mhm.
them and not rush them to the finish line.
Yeah.
Because really, for some stuff, there's not a finish line. And I know that's going to be really hard for some
Yeah.
people to hear,
Yeah.
but there's some stuff that you're going to, if you feel, if you were abandoned as a child, that's going to be something that's probably going to stay with you for a long time. You may function, you may find
Mhm.
some healing in Jesus, but there's going to be times that that abandonment still comes
Yeah.
up. If you have anger and distrust, if that's something that's going to take a while to get out. And what we need to realize is that for some stuff, there's no finish line or of completion where you get a certificate and say, congratulations, you're no longer angry at your mom. I like whatever, because that's what therapy, a lot of, and I'm not downing therapy, but that's what
Sure.
traditional worldly therapy wants to do, is to help you. And really what you need to learn to do is to realize, to recognize, God, how can I walk through this with
Yeah.
you? And how can I find purpose and why you've allowed this to come to
Mhm.
me? Where can I find ministry that I can now do, which I know
Yeah.
is what God has done with you guys specifically. That's so, I mean, look at you, Ben. If I had talked to you in high school and said, Ben,
Oh,
someday you're going to be a pastor that ministers to special needs families, you'd have said,
yeah.
I don't think so.
No. Well, and I mean, yeah, that's the whole thing, and it's only because of the experiences that we had. And it is so much easier to look back and be like, okay, this is the way God worked in all these different ways. But
Yeah.
it's so hard when you're like in the middle of it and you're like, I'm not sleeping. I'm not, I mean, there's so many parts that,
Right.
but getting to this place, you realize like we went through the valley of the shadow of death
Yeah.
like numerous times. I mean, and
Yep.
it's just, but it's like, and it's hard because when you see it on this side, so we have lots of influence in all sorts of different ways, and that God has graciously helped us have all sorts of friends and things like that. But it's like, if people want to be like us in a sense of like, okay, I want to be like that. It's like, no,
No,
you
you don't.
really don't.
You don't
You
really
don't
want
want to
to.
go through everything that
Yeah.
we went through.
And I
And
think what I was just going to say is your pain, when I said your pain doesn't disqualify you from love, but sometimes it actually enlarges your capacity
oh,
for it.
absolutely, yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what's happened to you, is it's enlarged your capacity. But in order to do that, you had to have that experience, that terrible, awful experience that
yeah.
you wouldn't wish on anybody.
And that's kind of what I think is what I feel like one of the things I've learned in life is like those are the defining moments. Is that and like how you come out of that. And like we could have come out any kind of ways
Yeah.
and not to say that it would have been okay, but it would have been a much different life than now. And
Yeah.
like even we've talked to numerous people about like should have we stayed in like the disability world or not, and
Yeah.
but it's like that's what God kind of called us to, and that's also what our life was like.
Right.
And that's kind of the hard thing because I think there was an expectation, or some people even shared with us, like, can have like a typical life. Well, that was never our lives. I mean, our lives were
That would seem
going.
weird.
That is very
Yeah.
weird, and we didn't
It
know how
would.
to do it. I mean, like,
Right.
we still don't like spend a whole lot of time like going on vacation, thing like that, because it's like that was never our lives, and
Yeah.
not that we don't want to or anything, but at the same time, to be honest, like I feel most comfortable when I'm with people with disabilities because
Right.
we're with Kyle, and
Right.
that's
That's
and
life.
and exactly, and like
Yeah.
that's what. First of all, I think God's put peace in our lives to do that, but
Yeah.
also I think that was also part of the experience, and so yeah, Like
Because he's
having food
enlarged your
this,
capacity for
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
It no longer feels weird. It just
yeah,
feels
yeah,
like who you were made to be, your purpose.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
And I think that that's a beautiful thing to say and reflect on Kyle's life is that that was part of his purpose.
Hmm.
His purpose
Yeah,
was to shape you guys as a family for you to be able to reach people who are living experiences very
yeah,
familiar to you, to be able to show them, "Hey, listen, there's life. There's
yeah.
beauty even in pain," you
Well,
know?
and part of and I think one of the hard things I think for all of us, especially those that are parenting someone with disabilities, like I need to be typical and I need to like fit into this, which none of us fit into the cookie cutter, no matter, it's like I don't none of us live the Facebook life of, hey,
No,
these people have the perfect life. Well,
no,
obviously, but even more so like with the disability thing of like just how many people are in such denial that it ruins so much, whether it's their child's life, whether it's their life, whether it's their marriage, whatever, of like you're trying to put on this facade that's almost impossible to do
right.
because you don't want that stigma of my child has a disability. And we see
Yeah.
that all the time. And again, my heart just breaks for people like that because there is just such oppression in living like that instead of
Yeah.
living like this is how God created my child to be.
I relate to that a little bit, just being chronically ill, that sometimes there's times last week I had to have some shots into my shoulder. I've shared here on the podcast, the soft tissue in my shoulder is failing. There's really not a whole lot they can do about it. And I had to bow out Thursday night from food ministry and come home and sit on my couch. And I remember
Yeah.
thinking, like, how am I going to, like, that moment of, which I'm really transparent, but that moment of, like, what am I going to tell people why I'm going home? Like, how can I put on this facade? And I, quite frankly, have found when I am open and honest about my limitations, I am met with love, with support. Where my
Mhm.
volunteers were like, "Why are you here? Go home." I went down and opened up and was showing them how to set up, and then they're like, "Go home. We have this. Get out of here." But when you are transparent about your needs, about your love, if you have positioned yourself within a community like you experience, like I
Yeah.
experience, it's beautiful.
Hmm.
It's something that I wish everybody could experience, where you
Yeah.
have people that come over and wash your dishes or come over and anybody that wants to do my laundry. No, no, but like, that come over and just come over and be with you,
Yeah. Well, and
just yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Well, and part of, even as we've kind of said some things like about the 90s and whatnot, the that might have been a little more negative. One of the huge positives that I took away from my time growing up at Agape was that community. And that's like, I feel like through my college years and even like when I was younger, I was like, that's what I want and desire because that's what, when I think of church, I
Yeah.
think of just all the people that we spent all of our time together.
Yep.
We went,
The reason why we still want to go get Mexican food together.
exactly why
Yeah.
it's like, hey, for my 50th birthday, these are the people I want to hang out with because
Right.
we just connect again. But it was like you think through all the different things that we did together. Like we went to Mexico together. We went to
We
New York
did.
City together. We
Yeah.
did the plays together. I
Yeah.
mean, we did all these things together. It was because that was a rhythm of our
We got
life.
kicked out
And
of Kmart together. No.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry,
But
Dad.
but that's like the thing of like, and that's what I found with like disability population is there's not a whole lot of people inviting them to do stuff. So it's like
Yeah.
anytime we invite people to do stuff, it's like, yeah, we can do stuff because
Let's
no
do
one else is
let's
doing
do it.
anything.
You wanna
But
go get
but
Slurpees at 7-Eleven? Sign me up. I'm ready
yeah,
to go.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what being a community is like it's not like you have like 50 million things you're doing,
No.
but whatever you're doing, you're bringing people along with you.
Right,
And
right,
so
and
like,
that's key right there. Branches Pregnancy Center, their Family Resource Center, sorry, Jean's gonna yell at me, they just recently changed it. They have a sign above their desk that says, "We do life together."
yeah.
And that is something that I'm like, I'm stealing it because that's what the church community is supposed to be.
Hmm.
And it's really like we've kind of become a country club that we visit once a week versus um, something that you do that is a part of your
Yeah.
life. That's
Well,
just
and
a part of your
yeah.
community.
Well, we were together like 4 or 5 times a week. It seemed like maybe
Yeah. Oh,
I don't know,
yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
yeah. And it's like that's the only way to get to know people is like you can't
It's
have this community if all of a sudden you just go on a Sunday morning and that's it.
no.
Like
And
you
there's a
really
lot of
don't
people
know.
that do that. They just go to
Yeah,
church on Sunday and then they leave.
Yeah, or say that didn't work because this is what I did. But
Yeah.
like when you're like with somebody 4 or 5 times a week, you cannot put on a front that often.
No.
They see the good and the bad.
And as soon as they
And-
see you, they go, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah, exactly. So like you're not, yeah, you can't fake it. And
You can't fake it.
it that many
No.
times.
No, you can't. They're like, "What's wrong with you? You don't look great."
Yeah.
Well, Ben, I so appreciate you chatting with us.
Oh.
Our friend Laura here says seeing all of us was the highlight. I just saw her the other day. I actually saw her cute little baby with her husband looking at giraffes in Walmart the other day because I
Oh.
occasionally see them now around her cute little baby.
Yeah, I was gonna say we get to meet. We met her at Spofford Lake this summer.
She's a mom of a toddler. Everybody on here pray for Laura and Sean because they're getting ready to be in their 50s or in their 50s and have a toddler. God bless them. What a beautiful blessing they have in their life. We're going to be empty nesters. We're going to wish we had them because we're going to be all alone by ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's one reason I will say this: building community is such an important part of life for those that are alone a lot of times. For whatever reason, and having a community that you can reach out to. Yes, she does. She loves giraffes. There's a giant giraffe in a display in Walmart that she already loves looking at in Walmart.
Yeah.
But you're right. Community is something that you really do have to integrate and build within yourself. And I read a book by Jenny Allen. I don't know if you've heard this author a few years ago. And it's kind of funny because it's a phrase that my friend Missy and I say. It's because find your people. And it's a great book. I recommend it to a lot of people. I read 2 of her books. Another one called Get Out of Your Own Head, which actually made me mad at myself. It's about self-talk. It's a great book if you have an inner dialogue going on all the time. But find your people. And I love that book because me and my friend Missy say that, like, if she walks into a room and we're all there, my people, like, and that's community. Finding your people, the people who embrace you with all your lumps and bumps and scars and open wounds, whatever they are, because I can't imagine doing life without my people.
No.
Like I can't.
Yeah. And especially in those moments where there's no control.
Yep.
And you're just sitting there and immediately you just keep right on going with community because that's what you have.
Yeah. And if you didn't have it, I can't imagine it.
No, exactly. And that's the whole thing of, but
I can't imagine going through life and the things that I've experienced in my life and then not having people to reach out to, not having people to rally behind me, not having people to pray for me. I mean, simply that, to say, like you said, doesn't feel like a much, but man, does it feel good when you get your phone blowed up a million times with people saying, I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. You're like, you know what? This is it. Wayne and I walked. My dad says, love you, Ben. I'm out. Hi, Elise.
Hi.
She's on the pod. Wait, Aiden. Hi, Jill. Aiden's going to be so mad that you guys are on the pod and he's not. He's going to be so mad. My dad says, love you, Ben. He's out. Laura says, church, youth group, play practice. It was really amazing part of our life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
So I think the word we'll leave people with is find your people.
Absolutely.
Find your community. And if you can't find your people, then be the people. And I think that's a really an important way is sometimes you just have to be the people for somebody to be who they need. I'm going to sign out, Ben. You stay right there. Guys, remember, God loves you and he has a wonderful plan for your life. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks.